At the start of the story, we are introduced to the entertainment world, a place overflowing with shine, fame, and glamour. In the middle of it all is Atsumu Amagasaki, a young man who simply wants to live a normal life. Even though people constantly ask him to help them succeed in their careers, that we soon learn the reason behind this. Atsumu has 7 sisters, all of whom are well-known figures in Japan's entertainment industry. His role is to manage them, making him the one handling everything behind the scenes. For a long time, Atsumu believed he was an important part of his family, until his 18th birthday, when everything suddenly changed out on that day. Atsumu received a message from his family asking him to meet them at a restaurant to celebrate his birthday. Feeling excited, he went there expecting something special. Instead, he was met with a strange cake decorated with a cracked skull and covered in farewell messages. Before he could fully react, his family told him that starting that day, he was no longer a member of the Amagasaki family. Atsumu was completely stunned. When he hesitated, they mocked him and asked if he was too stupid to understand what was happening. Atsumu replied that he did understand, but the decision felt sudden and unfair. He had not done anything to deserve being kicked out. A part of him still hoped this was just a cruel prank planned by his sisters, with a real birthday surprise waiting for him in the end. The hope disappeared when the 5th sister, Mitsuki Amagasaki, an idol, snapped at him. She made it clear that this was not a joke, and said she was ashamed to be the twin sister of someone as useless as Atsumu. The 3rd sister, Mika Amagasaki, a model, agreed with her and said she could not believe Atsumu was truly their brother. The youngest sister, Yichiro Amagasaki, a YouTuber, mocked him by saying that even if this were a prank, no one would care enough to watch it. The 2nd sister, Futaba Amagasaki, known for her many talents, supported Yichiro's comment. The eldest sister, Io Amagasaki, an actress, called Atsumu foolish for thinking this was a prank at all. She said only elites deserved to carry the Amagasaki name, and that someone like Atsumu, a worthless half-breed, did not qualify. The 4th sister, Shiki Amagasaki, a voice actress, laughed at the situation and joked that Io's words were so harsh that if she were the one being insulted, she might have taken her own life. The 6th sister, Nana Amasaki, a singer, stayed silent and chose to ignore everything. Finally, their mother, Amana Amasaki, the CEO of their talent agency, spoke up. She said Atsumu had always been good at getting on people's nerves, so she would explain things clearly one last time. According to her, men were nothing more than filthy and useless pigs, and they had no place in the Amagasaki family. Atsumu was left completely shaken and speechless. Even so, he forced himself to speak. He said he understood that everyone there hated him, but he begged them to reconsider throwing him out. He had spent his entire life trying to be useful and helping them in every way he could. They were the only family he had, and he had nowhere else to go. More than anything, he did not want to lose that bond. His heartfelt words only made them laugh harder. After that, his twin sister Mitsuki Yamagasaki told him bluntly that there had never been any bond between them in the first place. She said they had never once considered him part of the family. Atsumu refused to believe it, thinking there had to be some kind of connection if they had lived together for so many years. Their mother, Amana, let out a tired sigh and asked him how long he planned to cling to that idea. She then explained the truth. They had only kept him around to meet a single condition. That condition came from the grandmother's will, which stated that Amana could only use her inheritance to fund the agency if she raised and showed love to Atsumu until he turned 18. So everything she had ever shown him had been an act. All the affection and care he thought was real had been nothing more than a way to secure money. Now that he was finally 18, there was no reason to tolerate him anymore. She scolded him for being useless, slow, and good for nothing, saying they had all suffered because of his mistakes. But that suffering was over now, since today was his 18th birthday. Because of that, they no longer needed to put up with him, and the day became something worth celebrating. They prepared to celebrate the occasion, wishing Atsumu a happy birthday, along with a goodbye. They openly celebrated getting rid of him. That as Atsumu listened, memories from the past flooded his mind. He had truly believed that if he worked hard enough, they would eventually accept him. He genuinely thought they were a family. Tears slowly filled his eyes. Amanda then told him that his job was finished and ordered him to hand over his phone and any other personal devices before leaving. She said they could not risk any private information being leaked. Atsumu understood what she meant and forced himself not to cry. He wanted to stay strong and leave quietly, without causing any more trouble for them. Each of his 7 sisters either looked happy to see him go or showed no reaction at all. Atsumu smiled through the pain and thanked them one last time for everything. In his heart, he burned away every memory he had of them and walked out of the Amagasaki household. He stopped and looked back at the house one final time, saying goodbye to his life as Atsumu Amagasaki. Even as tears fell from his eyes, he smiled that on his 18th birthday, Atsumu was cast out by the very family he had grown up with. However, as he was leaving, he noticed a beautiful girl whose presence completely stunned him. He had no idea that such a terrible day would mark the beginning of a major change in his life. Meeting this girl would go on to change his future forever. This was the start of the story of a boy who lost both his family and his home, only to grow stronger while supporting others. More importantly, he would finally get to live the normal youth he had always dreamed of. That night, Atsumu ended up staying at a net cafe. He slept in a cramped room as tears quietly rolled down his face, thinking about how drastically his life had changed. He had been abandoned by his own family, left without a home, and had no money to his name. It felt like he had somehow angered God himself. Even though he had gone to sleep feeling completely hopeless, Atsumu still woke up the next morning and went to school. Once he arrived, he explained everything that had happened to him to the school chairman. The chairman asked if he was telling the truth, and Atsumu confirmed that he was. He then explained that this was the reason he wanted to drop out. Before the chairman could respond, Asuka Ashiya spoke up and said she would not accept that decision. She said that Atsumu was the one who had suffered the most, so it made no sense for him to be the one punished by being removed from school. Atsumu thanked her for standing up for him, but Asuka immediately told him to stop being so formal. Atsumu had met Asuka before during his time working in the entertainment industry. She was an idol from the incredibly popular group Asterisk, and not only was she a member, she was also the group's leader. Her fan base was massive, and people adored her smile. It would not be an exaggeration to say that Asuka Ashiya was currently the top idol in the country. Asuka pouted and said that even if Atsumu himself was fine with everything, she could not accept it. Despite being someone so famous, she was standing right in front of him, firmly taking his side even though he believed himself to be insignificant. That moment made Atsumu tear up, and he finally understood why she was so loved as an idol. However, despite Asuka's passionate defense of him, her mother stepped in and told her to calm down. She believed Atsumu had already made up his mind. Asuka's mother, Sakuya Ashiya, was the chairman of Yumikoshi Academy. She asked Atsumu to give a proper reason for wanting to leave the school, since based on her calculations, there was no real need for him to drop out. With a gentle smile, she waited for his answer. After thinking it over, Atsumu realized that he did not actually have a solid reason to quit. This immediately annoyed Asuka, who demanded to know if he was playing some kind of prank on her. Atsumu quickly denied it and explained that the real reason he wanted to leave was guilt. Yumikoshi Academy was filled with ambitious and talented students who were already popular and came from impressive backgrounds. They attended the school with clear dreams of entering the entertainment industry. Atsumu felt bad attending the same school when he had no ambitions of his own and was already stepping away from that world. He felt that staying would be disrespectful to the academy. That was why he wanted to quit, and it did not feel strange to him since his previous workload had rarely allowed him to attend classes anyway. After hearing this, Asuka suddenly asked Atsumu how many people had been working on the same team as him. The question confused him at first. Asuka told him to stop pretending not to understand and asked directly how many people had been involved, pointing out that managing 7 celebrities was not something one person could realistically handle. She listed off the roles needed, such as a manager, producer, public relations staff, video editor, and more. With a large enough team working in shifts, she said, Atsumu should have been able to attend school normally. Her question was simple. How many people were on his team? Hesitating, Atsumu admitted that it had only been him. Asuka was clearly shocked and confronted him, refusing to believe that one person could manage all of that alone. Managing 7 people was far too much work. Atsumu explained that the responsibilities had slowly piled up on him as his sisters became more famous. Even then, he admitted he was never very efficient at handling everything. Suddenly, Atsumu realized something and asked Asuka why she was so involved in this situation. He understood that her mother was the chairman, but Asuka herself had no real reason to be there. Asuka grew nervous and struggled to come up with an answer. That was when Sakuya calmly revealed the truth. Asuka had asked the security guard to notify her the moment Atsumu showed up at the school. Asuka instantly turned bright red and rushed over to her mother, scolding her for revealing that to Atsumu. Watching her reaction, Atsumu could not help but say that she looked cute. That only made her blush even harder. She pretended to be angry and snapped at him for calling her cute, though she quickly admitted she was not actually mad. She just said that she did not want to be called cute. Atsumu immediately agreed and said he would not call her that anymore. Instead of making things better, this upset her even more. She turned to him and asked if he really meant that he would never call her cute again. Atsumu found himself completely confused, wondering what she actually wanted from him. At the same time, he could not deny how genuinely adorable she was acting. Before things could get any more awkward, Sakuya Ashiya stepped in and redirected the conversation. She reminded Atsumu that he would now be living on his own terms, and asked him what he planned to do next if he was leaving the academy. Atsumu answered honestly. He said he wanted to live a normal life. He wanted to go to school regularly, make friends, and maybe even get a girlfriend someday. What he truly wanted was to experience a normal youth. Hearing this, Sakuya smiled, clearly pleased, and told him that she already knew the perfect school for him. That a few hours later, Atsumu found himself in an unfamiliar town after leaving Yumekoshi Academy behind. This place would be his new home. He had arrived there thanks to Sakuya's recommendation, which got him accepted into a new school and even secured a dorm room for him. She had also said some strange things about how helping him so much would increase her daughter's chances, but Atsumu brushed it off and assumed she was just being kind. Sakuya even offered to cover his rent and school fees for the time being, which meant everything to Atsumu, who had thought his life was completely over. Still, he decided he would work a part-time job while studying so he could pay her back someday. Even after everything that happened the day before, his life finally seemed to be getting back on track, and Atsumu could not have been happier. However, on his way to school, he noticed 2 delinquents harassing a girl. Seeing this, he wondered if the town was not as friendly as he had hoped. He also knew he had no real chance in a fight. He was short and would probably get beaten badly. Even so, he could not bring himself to ignore a girl in trouble. Atsumu stepped in and grabbed one of the delinquent's arms just as he was about to touch her. He firmly told the guy to stop. The delinquents stared at him in disbelief, shocked that someone like Atsumu would interfere. They warned him to back off, saying he would get hurt if he did not. Confused, Atsumu asked who exactly was supposed to get hurt. His response stunned them. He briefly wondered if he was the strange one in the situation. When he glanced back, he saw how frightened the girl was, which only strengthened his resolve. Smiling calmly, he told the delinquents that he would make sure none of them got hurt either. That was the last straw. One of the delinquents charged at him in anger. At that moment, Atsumu became serious. He saw the attack coming, stepped aside, grabbed the attacker's arm, and used the man's own momentum to throw him to the ground. The delinquent hit the ground hard, completely shocked, yet somehow uninjured. Atsumu calmly explained that he had used kote geishi, a technique from Aikido. He added that he knew many other Aikido techniques as well. Hearing that, the second delinquent panicked and ran away, shouting that he was letting Atsumu off this time. The first delinquent quickly followed after him. This is when it is revealed that Atsumu had trained in multiple martial arts from a very young age, so he could protect his sisters, even though he rarely ever had to use those skills. In the entertainment industry, performers are constantly in the public eye, which naturally attracts dangerous people, such as stalkers, perverts, and even those with violent intentions. Because of that, bodyguards are a necessity. Atsumu had filled that role for his sisters as well, which was why he had spent years learning different martial arts. However, that chapter of his life was over now, and he decided it was time to move on. Just as he was about to leave, the girl he had helped called out to him. Atsumu turned around, and for the first time, he got a clear look at her face, still shaken. The girl thanked him for stepping in to protect her. That was how Atsumu met her for the first time. The girl with the fragile expression was Tsukiyo Himeji, though her occupation was unknown. The moment he looked at her properly, Atsumu felt his face heat up. He could not believe he had been so focused on dealing with the delinquents that he had failed to notice how beautiful she was. She was stunning, much like his sisters, yet somehow even more captivating. He nearly panicked when he realized that her appeal was not just her face. Her figure was just as striking, and there was something gentle and almost angelic about her presence that made her seem like a world-class beauty. While Atsumu was completely mesmerized, Tsukiyo began to tear up and told him that she was truly grateful. She said she really meant it. Tsukiyo went on to say that Atsumu had saved her life. Atsumu thought that description was a bit dramatic, but looking at her, he could tell she genuinely felt that way. She must have been terrified. Wanting to reassure her, he reached out and gently patted her on the head, telling her not to worry because everything was okay now. It was something he used to do for his sisters, and the action pulled him briefly back into his memories. However, the effect on Tsukiyo was much stronger than he expected. She froze up and became even more nervous. Realizing what he had done, Atsumu immediately panicked and apologized for touching her so suddenly. Tsukiyo quickly told him it was fine and that he did not need to worry. After that, Atsumu realized they had not even introduced themselves yet, and Tsukiyo agreed. They began with Tsukiyo, who nervously gave her name as Tsukiyo Himeji. Atsumu found the name unexpectedly cute and could not help admiring it. She then asked for his name in return. Atsumu hesitated. Since he was no longer part of his family, he could not bring himself to use the Amagasaki name. Instead, he introduced himself as Atsumu Sakasagawa, using his father's surname. Right after that, his stomach let out a loud growl. Atsumu admitted, a little embarrassed, that he was hungry and had been surviving on nutrient jelly and juice for quite some time. Hearing that, Tsukiyo grew concerned and told him that this kind of diet was not healthy at all. Wanting to repay him for helping her, Tsukiyo asked if she could treat him to a meal. The suggestion caught Atsumu completely off guard. Before he could properly respond, Tsukiyo led him to a family restaurant so she could buy him food as a way of saying thank you. Atsumu was genuinely happy because of her kindness. He told her that she did not need to do any of this and that if anything, he should be the one thanking her instead. Tsukiyo shyly told him he was wrong, which only made Atsumu feel more awkward. After all, Tsukiyo Himeji was known around town for being popular, tall, cute, and attractive. People constantly talked about her, and she always seemed to be under everyone's attention. Because of that, Atsumu understood why she lived such a careful and proper lifestyle. One look at her made it obvious. She was stunning in a way that was hard to ignore. Just then, their food arrived. Tsukiyo had ordered a special style parfait, and Atsumu found it surprisingly adorable that she liked something like that. Unfortunately, not everyone saw it the same way. People nearby began whispering and gossiping after seeing her eat such a cute dessert. Feeling pressured by the stares, Tsukiyo asked if it was really that strange. Atsumu told her it was not weird at all, and said she could even take as many pictures as she wanted before eating it. Tsukiyo explained that it was not about the photos. It was about how people viewed her. Everyone saw her as mature and elegant, yet she liked things that were cute. Atsumu told her that was completely fine and even a good thing. To him, a beautiful girl who also liked cute things was charming and fun. He made it clear that she had nothing to worry about, because to him, Tsukiyo was already wonderful just the way she was. His words deeply moved her, and she thanked him sincerely. She then admitted, without hiding it, that she really did like cute things. Seeing that made Atsumu smile. He casually added that her voice reminded him of a VTuber he admired a lot. That comment made Tsukiyo tense up. She forced a nervous smile and said she was going to grab their drinks. Watching her leave, Atsumu wondered if he had said something strange and once again thought about how hard it was to understand girls. After that, Atsumu joked about how surprising it was that family restaurants did not actually require you to come with your family. He added that if they did, he would probably have been arrested, so he was glad that was not the case. Tsukiyo saw through the joke and gently asked if he really did not have a family. Atsumu immediately realized he had said too much. Tsukiyo then asked if she was being too personal, but explained that she was worried about him, especially after hearing that he had been living off nutrient jelly. Her concern touched Atsumu, and he decided to be honest with her. He warned her that it would take some time to explain everything, then told her his entire story from the beginning. He explained how his mother and sisters had treated him and how he was kicked out of his home on his 18th birthday. Once he finished, Atsumu immediately regretted opening up because Tsukiyo started crying after hearing his story. He silently blamed himself, thinking that no one should ever make a girl cry. Tsukiyo told him his story was heartbreaking. Atsumu tried to brush it off, saying it was fine and that he was useless anyway, so there had been no reason to keep him around. Those words hit Tsukiyo hard. She firmly told him he was wrong. To her, Atsumu was not useless at all. He was the person who had saved her earlier. In her eyes, that made him a hero. Hearing that made Atsumu blush deeply, and Tsukiyo's face turned red as well. At that moment, Atsumu realized he no longer regretted telling her the truth. After some time, they went their separate ways, saying goodbye in a friendly and warm manner. As Atsumu walked home alone, he reflected on the day and thought about how wild it had been, filled with moments he never could have expected. Atsumu found himself really enjoying the time he had spent with Tsukiyo Himeji. He loved her voice in particular, and it made him wonder if she was involved in any kind of voice-related work. That was how his journey into youth truly began. Even though he had hoped to live quietly, his life was already starting to feel like an unpredictable ride. At the same time, a popular YouTuber with over 1.5 million subscribers was streaming live. Her name was Kagaya Hashizuki. She cheerfully greeted her viewers and mentioned that something amazing had happened earlier that day. However, she did not go into details and instead shifted her focus to playing Minecraft, the game she was streaming. That VTuber was none other than Tsukiyo Himeji, who was known as Japan's #1 VTuber. Later that night, Atsumu could not stop thinking about the moment he was cast out by his family. He replayed the scene over and over in his head, wondering what they had felt when they kicked him out. He questioned whether they had felt even a hint of sadness. Atsumu knew it was pointless to dwell on it, but he could not help himself. To him, they had still been his precious family. The scene then shifts to the Amagasaki household after Atsumu's departure. Mitsuki Amagasaki, the idol, was laughing as she thought back on the moment. She found Atsumu's expression at the time absolutely pathetic and thought it was hilarious. Futaba Amagasaki, the multi-talented one, agreed with her. She said it was funnier than any prank she had ever seen, even though it was not a prank at all. Shiki Amagasaki, the voice actress, said she regretted not recording the moment. Hearing that made the others regret it too, since the footage could have easily gone viral. Mika Amagasaki, the model, then spoke up and said it was actually a good thing that someone like Atsumu was gone. She claimed that without him, even the air inside the house felt better. Her bluntness shocked the others, who wondered just how much frustration she had been holding back. They encouraged her to let it all out. Mika started by complaining about the strict diet Atsumu had forced on her. Even though she had never had issues with gaining weight, he refused to let her eat anything even slightly fatty. Shiki quickly agreed, saying she understood exactly how that felt. The sisters then asked Shiki to share her own frustrations. For her, it was all about the ban on spicy food. She could not believe that Atsumu had suggested that someone as talented as her could damage her voice by eating spicy dishes, so he completely prohibited it. Now that he was gone, she was finally free to eat whatever she wanted. That reminded Mitsuki of her own anger, and she immediately volunteered to speak next. She said she hated Atsumu the most for controlling her selfies. Every photo she wanted to post had to be approved by him, which meant taking dozens of shots each time. She found it incredibly annoying, especially since she believed she looked good from every angle. Futaba said she understood perfectly and launched into her own rant. She complained that Atsumu had completely banned her from using social media, even though she was a well-known multi-talented influencer. No matter how much she argued, he refused to allow it. After that, the four sisters turned their attention to the remaining three, who had been unusually quiet, and asked them to share their feelings as well. Finally, Io Amagasaki, the actress, spoke up. She said there were things she wanted to say too, even if it went against her elegant image. What Io hated most was that Atsumu controlled the script she could take on. She even mentioned seeing him turn down a popular director on the spot. The other sisters were stunned. They could not believe Atsumu would do something like that. After all, Io had the talent to ace any role, and if Atsumu had not interfered, she might have been in Hollywood by now. Next, they asked Nana, the singer, to speak. Nana simply said she did not care about the rest of it, and that her only supporter was someone called Five, a mysterious Vocaloid producer. The sisters were irritated by her obsession with this person, but they admitted that Nana's latest song with Five had blown up and fit her image perfectly. Nana said that just being able to sing for Five had kept her going. The others could not relate at all. Finally, it was the youngest sister, Yichuru, the YouTuber. When asked about Atsumu, she was blunt. She said she never wanted him to come back. Shiki was shocked by her honesty and wondered if Yichuru hated Atsumu even more than she did. After that, their mother, Amana Amagasaki, appeared. She calmly stated that she knew Atsumu had caused them a lot of trouble, but that until now, their talents had been restricted. From this point forward, they were free to pursue their work however they liked. The next day at the Amagasaki agency office, Amana arrived for work and was immediately confronted by her personal secretary, Yuki Kami. Yuki argued that Amana should have consulted her before letting Atsumu go. Amana disagreed, saying it was a trivial matter and did not require a discussion. Yuki was shocked. She reminded Amana that Atsumu had handled all the work behind the scenes and that she had her own duties. Managing the sisters without him was going to be impossible. Amana told Yuki to relax, explaining that she had already arranged a replacement for Atsumu. As she spoke, the replacement arrived. It was a young girl named Rima Harema, a student from Yumekoshi Academy who would be interning as the new manager. Yuki was stunned. She could not believe Amana intended to replace Atsumu with a student. She asked what Amana was thinking. Amana calmly explained that Rima was the perfect choice. Yuki knew that Yumekoshi students were top tier, but she still thought this was too much. She reminded Amana that Atsumu had been handling 7 of the country's top entertainers entirely on his own. That was nearly impossible, and she doubted someone like Rima could manage it. Amana only laughed. She said managing 7 people was not that difficult. If someone as useless as Atsumu could do it, then someone elite like Rima Harema could do it even better. Yuki was stunned by her logic. Rima stepped forward and promised to do her best. Amanda smiled and said she was counting on her. Yuki watched silently from the corner, thinking that this was bound to fall apart. She could not help but remember how Atsumu had always put his heart into his work. He had carried the burden, but still reminded her to take it easy. Thinking of this made Yuki emotional. Deep down, she wished Atsumu could come back because the agency really needed him. The next day at school, Tsukiyo Himeji arrived, and as soon as she stepped on campus, everyone was captivated by her beauty. One guy openly commented on how stunning she was, but his friends quickly warned him, asking if he had heard the rumors about her. That's when it became clear why she was considered untouchable. Tsukiyo was basically the perfect girl, tall, elegant, beautiful, and charming in every way. Yet she rarely interacted with anyone, and if someone tried to talk to her, she would shut them down. Because of this, she had earned the nickname Ice Queen. The friends told the guy it was pointless to even try talking to her. Getting close to Tsukiyo was simply impossible. Meanwhile, Atsumu was starting his day. He woke up at 4 a.m., much earlier than usual, thanks to his old habit of sleeping very little when he was with the Amagasaki family. After getting up, he went for a run, reflecting on everything that had happened recently. how he was kicked out of his home and transferred to this new school thanks to the kind chairman at his previous one. Back when he was with the Yamagasaki, he had to manage the careers of his 7 sisters, which meant waking up on almost no sleep, usually after just 3 to 4 hours of rest. After a long walk, Atsumu returned home and prepared breakfast for himself. As expected, he turned out to be pretty skilled at cooking. While eating, he wondered what living alone was really like. He was starting to enjoy it, even though he missed his smartphone, which had been confiscated. Without it, he couldn't check out VTubers, and the thought reminded him of Tsukiyo Himeji. He couldn't stop thinking about her and how familiar her voice sounded. When he looked at the clock, it was only 6:40 a.m. Time felt slower than usual, but he hoped school would be enjoyable. At school, the teacher introduced Atsumu as the new transfer student. Atsumu enthusiastically greeted the class and introduced himself as Atsumu Sakasagawa. The students were pleasantly surprised. They thought he was handsome, though a few mentioned his bangs were a little distracting. They also thought he was the short and cute type, and some guys even struggled to believe he was a boy because of his small stature and high-pitched voice. The school he had transferred to was called Eren Academy. Compared to Yumekoshi Academy, it was modest, and the fact that Atsumu had come from Yumekoshi was being kept secret to avoid unnecessary attention. After the introduction, the teacher showed Atsumu to his seat. However, not everyone was welcoming. A large, bear-like student named Riki Kongu seemed angry at Atsumu for some reason. He put his leg forward, trying to trip him. Atsumu realized immediately what was happening. When he tried to move past, Riki grabbed him and looked ready to start a fight. Riki warned him not to get cocky. Atsumu felt nervous. The guy was huge, standing around 180 centimeters, while Atsumu was only about 160 centimeters. He cautiously asked Riki if he had done something to upset him. Riki accused Atsumu of mocking him and trying to start trouble. The teacher tried to intervene, telling Riki to sit down, but Riki's intimidating presence made the teacher back off. Trying to lighten the tension, Atsumu nervously asked if Riki was mad at him because of his pants. Riki was left completely confused, but Atsumu quickly pointed out the ridiculous cartoonish animal designs on his pants. He proudly showed off his handiwork, explaining that he was really good at sewing. In a matter of moments, he had repaired the torn part on Riki's pants. Unfortunately, it seemed Riki did not appreciate the designs. Atsumu proudly displayed a tiger design, a bee design, and finally a bear design to match Riki's size. Riki might have preferred something bigger, like an elephant. To Riki, Atsumu looked more like a cute girl than a boy, and to everyone else, Atsumu seemed like an innocent, well-meaning little creature. Annoyed, Riki accused Atsumu of doing it on purpose, insisting that the tear was a fashion statement, not something to sew. Atsumu immediately realized the misunderstanding and apologized. He had thought Riki wanted him to fix the tear when he put out his leg to trip him. Despite still being irritated, Riki decided to let Atsumu go, and Atsumu felt a wave of relief, noticing that Riki had calmed down. Atsumu then made his way to his seat. He was pleasantly surprised to find it empty, and even more pleased when he realized who he would be sitting next to. It was none other than Tsukiyo Himeji. He greeted her politely and remarked on the coincidence. Tsukiyo struggled to maintain her usual poker face. A blush spread across her cheeks, and she struggled not to look flustered. Atsumu cheerfully told her to take care of him, since they were going to be seatmates. Embarrassed, Tsukiyo responded in kind, asking him to take care of her as well. Although it seemed like a simple, normal exchange, everyone in the classroom was stunned. They had just heard Tsukiyo Himeji speak for the first time, and her voice was surprisingly cute. Atsumu had no idea why everyone was reacting so strongly. He soon heard the whispers. It was a never-before-seen event. The Ice Queen, Tsukiyo Himeji, had just spoken to the transfer student. This left Atsumu bewildered. He wondered why exactly Tsukiyo Himeji had earned the nickname Ice Queen at the same time. Atsumu reflected on his past connection to her. Back when he was still living with the Yamagasaki family, he used to watch the streams of Kagaya Hashizuki, Tsukiyo's VTuber persona, during the relentless work and torment from his 7 sisters. Watching Kagaya's streams had been a small escape for him. He would make time to watch her despite his busy schedule. Eventually, though, he stopped being able to watch, and the connection with Kagaya Hashizuki had faded. Now, sitting next to this beautiful girl, Atsumu couldn't help but reevaluate his current situation. Everything that had happened, from being kicked out of his family to transferring schools, had led him here. Truthfully, he couldn't have been happier. He was finally sitting next to Kagaya. Even so, Atsumu found himself bothered by all the attention he was suddenly getting. The guys in his class kept staring at him with annoyance, making it hard for him to focus. On top of that, he felt bad for Tsukiyo, who was probably getting even more unwanted attention than he was. He started to regret transferring to this school, thinking that he was only causing trouble for others. At the same time, he still could not understand why everyone called Tsukiyo the Ice Queen. He could not figure out how someone as kind and gentle as Tsukiyo could end up with a nickname like that. He also kept wondering why someone like her, who seemed so perfect, had cried for a guy like him. As he looked around, Atsumu noticed Tsukiyo's bag and how many keychains were attached to it. They were all cute and fit perfectly with her image. When he looked closer, he saw something in particular that caught his attention. He wanted to ask her about it, but as he tried, he realized all the boys were glaring at him. They clearly did not want the new student talking to their Ice Queen. Not wanting to cause more trouble, Atsumu decided to wait for a better opportunity. That opportunity came during lunch break. Tsukiyo led him to the rooftop, her usual place to eat in peace away from everyone. As they sat down together, Atsumu realized it was the perfect chance to finally talk to her. He started by asking why people called her the Ice Queen. Tsukiyo hesitated but decided to explain, though she admitted it was embarrassing. She told him that she had trouble talking to people. Even when someone approached her and she wanted to reply, she could not find the right words to carry a conversation. Her shyness and inability to communicate made people think she was ignoring them to make things worse. There was a rumor that she came from a royal family and that she avoided speaking to commoners. The combination of the rumor and her shyness spread quickly, and that was how she got the nickname Ice Queen. Atsumu listened and realized that all the trouble really came from her shyness. Tsukiyo agreed, but admitted that she did not have the courage to tell everyone about her struggles. Atsumu could see a sense of melancholy in her and understood that this issue genuinely bothered her. Wanting to help, Atsumu offered that they could eat lunch together on the rooftop every day from now on. During their lunch breaks, they could practice having conversations, helping Tsukiyo get more comfortable. She agreed, accepting him as her teacher for this. Atsumu knew it probably would not fix everything, but it was better than doing nothing. At least, it was a start. After a while, Atsumu mentioned how strange it was that Tsukiyo could speak normally during her streams, yet struggled in real-life conversations. Tsukiyo agreed with him. Atsumu quickly apologized, saying he must have been imagining things, but when he realized she had agreed, he nervously asked if she was really a streamer. Tsukiyo froze, realizing she had been caught. For a moment, Atsumu could not believe it either. Could Tsukiyo really be Kagaya Hashizuki? A tense silence followed before Tsukiyo, blushing and teary, admitted that she was. She mumbled that she hadn't expected Atsumu to notice. Atsumu admitted that he had only half been sure, but it had turned out to be true. Curious, Tsukiyo asked how he had figured it out. Atsumu explained that it was a combination of things, including the way she had talked at the family restaurant. The way she expressed herself, her voice, and her love for strawberry parfait all reminded him of Kagaya. Tsukiyo realized that she had let her guard down because she usually did not spend time with anyone at school. But the thing that had made Atsumu most suspicious was one of the keychains on her bag, the Chichakwe mascot. He explained that he had noticed it back in the classroom, which shocked Tsukiyo. The mascot was not official merchandise, and she had made it herself. She sulked, saying she usually kept it hidden in her bag, but she had relaxed since no one normally sat beside her. Atsumu then said that seeing the keychain had made him very happy. Tsukiyo was confused and asked why. Atsumu revealed that the keychain was based on original artwork he had created called V. Tsukiyo froze, stunned that Atsumu was actually V, one of Kagaya's earliest listeners. Atsumu clarified that the name was supposed to be pronounced 5. Tsukiyo admitted she had never expected such a connection to exist between them, but but she was glad it was Atsumu and not someone else. She gave him a genuine smile, which made his heart flutter. Atsumu quickly changed the topic back to her difficulty talking in real life, that he asked why she could speak so confidently during streams, yet struggled in person. Tsukiyo explained that it was because she was not really herself online. On camera, she had to appear tall with sharp eyes, but that was not how she wanted to be. She wanted to be a cute, soft, small girl instead. Atsumu thought she was perfect as she was. She was beautiful, had sharp eyes, and a great figure. Still, he understood that her ideal version of herself was closer to the virtual Kagaya Hashizuki, the persona she presented online. Atsumu thought hard and came up with the only solution he could think of. He decided that he would make Tsukiyo cute in real life too. The two of them headed to a nearby shopping mall. Atsumu loved the place and thought it was really convenient to have something like this so close to school. Tsukiyo explained that they could find almost anything in the mall, and Atsumu thanked her for showing him around. He was genuinely happy because this was the first time he had gone out with a friend from school in his life. Tsukiyo, however, seemed a little flustered when he called her a friend. Eventually, they arrived at a cosmetics shop. Atsumu told her that he had been in charge of taking care of his sister's makeup, so maybe he could help Tsukiyo too. The fact that he offered to do this impressed Tsukiyo, and Atsumu reassured her that cuteness could definitely be created with makeup. Meanwhile, the salesgirl in the shop, Haruko Yamaguchi, had recently returned to her hometown after getting married. She started working in this shop because she still wanted to be in the makeup business, even though her original dream of becoming a professional makeup artist had not worked out. She was not particularly skilled at the job and mostly recommended the popular products her boss told her to. When Haruko saw Atsumu and Tsukiyo entering, she got nervous. She quickly realized that they looked like a high school couple and found them adorable. She thought Atsumu was a cute, polite boy, and Tsukiyo was a tall, beautiful girl who looked stunning even without makeup. Atsumu asked Haruko if they could borrow some products for a trial, and she agreed. He then got ready to do Tsukiyo's makeup. As he prepared, Tsukiyo told him to take good care of her. Haruko was surprised because she had not expected the boyfriend to actually apply makeup herself. She knew it was becoming more common for friends to do each other's makeup, but she worried that Atsumu might mess up since his knowledge seemed basic for what she had overheard earlier. What happened next completely stunned Haruko. Atsumu moved with precision and confidence. He held the brushes gently, applied the right colors, and worked carefully. It looked almost professional. But more than that, Haruko realized it was not just skill, it was the way he worked with love and care. Every movement showed how much he wanted Tsukiyo to look good, almost like watching a work of art unfold before her eyes. Tsukiyo watched Atsumu carefully as he worked, wondering just what kind of experiences he had gone through to get so skilled at makeup. After a while, Atsumu finished, and the results were stunning. Tsukiyo could hardly believe she was looking at herself in the mirror. Atsumu stayed modest, explaining that he had just tried following the latest trending makeup techniques. Tsukiyo, however, was genuinely impressed. She praised him, saying his skills were amazing and that he was an incredible person. She also remarked on how incredible makeup was as a whole, how it could help someone become the person they wanted to be. Haruko, who was listening quietly, felt deeply moved by the conversation. Just then, a group of women approached, crowding around Atsumu and asking about his makeup skills. They wanted to know how he learned and if he could do their makeup as well. Atsumu felt overwhelmed, while Tsukiyo's reaction was entirely different. She quickly grabbed his hand in front of everyone and told the crowd to step aside, insisting that they were interrupting her and Atsumu's date. The women were stunned, and Atsumu was equally surprised as Tsukiyo pulled him away from the crowd. Once they had some space, Atsumu admitted he didn't expect Tsukiyo to say something like that so openly. Tsukiyo, frustrated, explained that she had done it because she saw Atsumu getting surrounded and wanted to protect him. She also admitted she was annoyed that so many people had spoiled the precious time they were spending together. Immediately, she realized how forward she sounded and blushed bright red. Atsumu felt the same, though he quickly tried to ease the tension by changing the topic. He pointed out that Tsukiyo was talking normally now. She smiled and admitted that she noticed it too. It felt a lot like when she was streaming live, and she gave Atsumu credit for helping her feel comfortable. His heart thumped at her words. After that, they continued their day together. They went to a clothing store to pick out outfits that suited Tsukiyo, spent time at the arcade, grabbed some food, and simply enjoyed themselves. Eventually, they returned to the cosmetics store to buy the items they had tried earlier. The day had been long, fun, and full of small, unforgettable moments. After finishing up, Atsuma looked at Tsukiyo and remarked on how much they had managed to do and how many places they had explored in such a short time. Tsukiyo smiled and suggested they go get a strawberry parfait. Atsumu was a little surprised at how eager she was to have it again, but he couldn't help smiling. Their fun, however, came to an abrupt halt when the tall 180-centimeter guy appeared, clearly angry about Atsumu spending time with Tsukiyo. Atsumu immediately recognized him as the same delinquent he had beaten up earlier, along with the other two guys he had taken down to protect Tsukiyo. He wondered why they were back now. Meanwhile, back at the Amagasaki household, the new manager, Rima Harem, was getting scolded by Mitsuki, the idol. Mitsuki was yelling at her to get into the car and blamed her for making them late, marking the start of what was shaping up to be a grueling day for Rima. At the office, Yuki Kami, an employee at Amagasaki Entertainment, reflected on the chaos caused by firing Atsumu. She was frustrated with CEO Amana Amagasaki for letting him go, knowing how much work he had handled behind the scenes. The company was already swamped with phone calls for rescheduling and other management tasks that Atsumu used to take care of. Despite the workload, she felt some relief that nothing catastrophic had happened yet. Yuki also worried about Rima Harem, the new hire. She wondered if the young girl was managing to keep up. The scene then shifted to the downtown TV station, where Mitsuki cornered Rima against a wall. She accused Rima of ruining her image and demanded accountability. Mitsuki explained that her public persona was supposed to be a cute but hard-working idol who is never late, and because of Rima, that image had been compromised. Rima nervously explained that she had tried multiple times to wake Mitsuki up, but she simply didn't respond. Mitsuki's anger flared even more as she questioned why Rima didn't wake her on time, even though Rima had indeed made the effort. Just as Mitsuki was about to escalate further, a staff member called her to the set since filming was about to begin. She instantly switched back to her charming, idol persona, leaving Rima completely taken aback by the dramatic change. Mitsuki was the face of Prison, a top-tier idol group. She was adored on social media for her boldness and her approachable, kind personality, but Rima quickly realized that behind that image was a more complicated, demanding person she would have to navigate on her very first day. Rima was shocked by Mitsuki's personality. She had expected the idol to be sweet and charming at all times, but the fierce side she just witnessed was intimidating. After the shoot, Mitsuki and Rima got into the car. Mitsuki immediately told Rima to do her makeup, as they were heading to another shoot. Rima was surprised. She had never imagined that a manager would be expected to do makeup. She knew it was normal for managers to have some knowledge of cosmetics, but she believed that only professionals should handle it. Mitsuki, sensing hesitation, shifted back into her intimidating mode. She threatened Rima, telling her to finish quickly and accusing her of sabotaging Mitsuki's image by making her late. With no choice, Rima reluctantly began doing the makeup. Later, back at the Amagasaki residence, Mitsuki vented her frustration on her stuffed bunny toy. She was furious that Rima's makeup had come out messy and needed to be redone at the studio. The mistake had caused the show organizer to scold her, and the other band members had spoken behind her back, adding to her anger. In her fury, she beat the stuffed toy to a pulp. Afterward, Mitsuki found solace in beer. She enjoyed the freedom of having no restrictions and began drinking while thinking about Atsumu. She imagined him struggling on the roadside after being abandoned by his family. Thinking about his suffering somehow made her feel better. In her drunken state, she decided to take a selfie and post it on social media, expecting her fans to respond enthusiastically. However, her expectations did not match reality. The photo received severe backlash and quickly became the top trending topic on social media. The next day, Yuki Kami was inundated with calls from outraged sponsors. They were furious about the incident and promptly canceled all sponsorship deals. Yuki checked the internet herself and was shocked by the scale of the negative response. Slowly, the Amagasaki family began to realize the truth. The reason behind their previous success had been Atsumu. His efforts had been holding everything together, and without him, the cracks were obvious. Meanwhile, Atsumu, despite being abandoned by his family, had managed to survive and find happiness. He had met a beautiful girl, and the two of them had become close friends who genuinely cared for one another. Life was finally beginning to look bright for him. Back in the mall, Atsumu found himself in the middle of a tense confrontation with Riki Kongu and his lackeys. Riki was clearly displeased that Atsumu had been spending time with Sakio, but Atsumu, ever naive, initially assumed that Riki might just want to join them and hang out. That assumption quickly crumbled when the lackeys stepped forward, claiming that Atsumu had violently attacked them for no reason. The lie shocked Atsumu, who knew he had only been protecting himself and Sakio, that Riki's anger escalated immediately upon hearing the false accusations. He accused Atsumu of having the audacity to mess with his friends. Atsumu's irritation grew as well, frustrated at being misrepresented, but he kept his composure. Riki then brought up the infamous pants incident, declaring that he wanted revenge for everything. Atsumu, recalling the moment, offered to fix the problem on the spot, hoping to diffuse the tension. His attempt only seemed to enrage Riki further. Without warning, Riki threw a punch at Atsumu, who barely managed to dodge. The lackeys cheered him on to finish the fight, while Sakio watched anxiously, worried for Atsumu's safety. Atsumu tried to reason with them, suggesting they settle the matter without creating a scene, but Riki refused to listen. He emphasized that his next strike would be unavoidable, citing his 11 years of karate training and his second Dan black belt. Recognizing the seriousness of the situation, Atsumu decided to respond accordingly. When Riki stepped forward to strike again, Atsumu blocked the punch with ease, twisted Riki's wrist, and brought him down to the ground in a controlled wrist lock. The lackeys were stunned. They had never expected Riki to be so effortlessly subdued. Sakio, impressed despite herself, noted Atsumu's skill but quickly reminded herself to stay composed and insisted they leave the area. Atsumu grabbed Riki by the arm and led him to a nearby coffee shop, making sure to include him in a proper discussion just as he had originally intended. Once seated, Atsumu asked Riki to explain what he had meant when he said Atsumu didn't understand his feelings. Riki, initially reluctant, eventually broke down. He confessed that it must be nice to be like Atsumu, strong in fights and popular with girls, while he himself had been laughed at by his classmates and had shown his worst side to Sakio. Riki admitted that he was jealous of guys like Atsumu, who were charming and could go on dates with pretty girls like Sakio. He revealed that he had intended to beat up Atsumu to ease his feelings, but realized that he had been pathetic. Atsumu, slightly confused but understanding the situation, thought about how his meeting with Sakio had been based purely on luck. He realized that others must have misinterpreted his connection with her as popularity. Atsumu tried to cheer Riki up by telling him that he genuinely found him quite cool. The three of them thought they had no future with girls given their appearances. Each of them had their own issues. The first lackey had monolids, which made people think he was glaring all the time. The second had very long hair and pale skin. Riki had a large face and an intimidating build. Believing that becoming delinquents would make them popular, they had tried that path, but it wasn't working out well. Atsumu understood their perspective but did not condone violence or eve-teasing. The three of them apologized for their past behavior. Sakio, bothered by their worries, remembered her own struggles with image issues. She asked Atsumu to do makeup on them as well. Atsumu listened and got to work. His swift and artistic skills produced results that shocked all three. They could hardly believe the reflection in the mirror. Raida, the one with monolids, now had an elongated eye look. Fuda, with pale skin, had his tone adjusted with foundation and his long hair styled to create an androgynous appearance. Riki's harsh features were refined to give him a sharper, more approachable look. All three were pleased with their new appearances and gained confidence to interact with people normally. Atsumu felt happy seeing their joy, but reminded them that while makeup could change appearances, what mattered most was learning to love themselves as they were. His words were appreciated, and the three treated him like a teacher. Afterward, Atsumu asked Tsukiyo how she felt. She said it was fine and that she understood them. She noted that it must have been difficult for Atsumu to do so much makeup, but Atsumu reassured her that it was fine, explaining that he had done more back when he was working. Noticing that it was getting late, Atsumu apologized to Tsukiyo, mentioning that they would not be able to visit all the places they had planned. Tsukiyo blushed intensely but said it was fine, adding that it didn't matter because they would be spending more time together from now on. Atsumu was touched by her words, feeling genuinely appreciated and invited for the first time. Following this, the group, Atsumu, Tsukiyo, Riki, Raida, and Fuda, continued to hang out. They took many pictures and enjoyed their time together. It was a bit chaotic, but perhaps that was just part of youth. The next day at school, someone approached Tsukiyo and bravely asked her out on a date after school. Tsukiyo uses her soft voice to say something, which the guy doesn't understand. So, she speaks up louder to tell him that he has no chance. This comes off as cold and makes the guy freeze up on the spot in embarrassment. Everyone else was appreciating Tsukiyo's behavior, though. They liked her direct and cold approach. She was branded as the Ice Queen, and as such, it's only natural for her to make them feel like they're not worthy. However, in reality, Tsukiyo was a nervous wreck. She already had plans with someone else after school, so all she intended to do was tell the guy that. But her lack of social skills made it come off as if she was being cold. She assumed she'd be able to talk normally now after Atsuma's makeup made it easier for her to open up earlier. But it turns out that she isn't out of her shell yet. So, she plans on asking Atsumu to teach her how to do her own makeup, which can help her out in such situations. Meanwhile, rumors of a new guy at school being able to talk with Tsukiyo spread quickly. As a result, many boys were left heartbroken because they had previously tried and failed to talk to the Ice Princess. Anyway, during lunch break, Tsukiyo and Atsumu meet at the rooftop. There, Atsumu guides her and teaches her how to do her own makeup. Tsukiyo was tentative, but Atsumu reassures her that she's doing just well. The rooftop was like their safe haven, a place where they could be themselves without interruption from anyone else. After a while, Atsumu tells her that she's indeed a very fast learner, as she did manage to learn how to do her own makeup properly in no time. Tsukiyo managed to fully recapture the same style of makeup that Atsumu did on her previously, and she tells that her being able to do this is because of Atsumu being a good teacher. Atsumu thanks her, but tells her that he really isn't a good teacher. Doing her makeup, Atsumu realized that Tsukiyo can be normal when she has makeup on. Tsukiyo also wants to make more friends, so he thought it would be great to teach her how to do it herself. That being said, Atsumu tells her that she can just ask him to help whenever she wants. Tsukiyo thinks that would have been rude of her to expect. Atsumu clarifies that it's not rude at all, because friends are there to always stay by each other's side. Tsukiyo overthinks about the always being together part, and equates it to being akin to marriage, which makes her freeze up. Atsumu understands that Tsukiyo will still freeze up every now and then, but that's expected. A person can't change so suddenly. That being said, it was thanks to Tsukiyo that he was enjoying his school life. However, a problem still persisted. The problem being money. Even though the principal from his former school was covering the rent for his first month living here. However, he still needs money for his own food, living, and other arrangements. From next month, he will have to cover everything that he was able to get by until now with the little money he had until now. But it's running out quickly. So, he was hoping to get a job that would pay him and pay him right away. Just then, a car arrived at the school, and it was none other than Asako Shia. She knew it was Atsumu's school, and she wanted to go and find him. Meanwhile, school was over, so Atsumu and Tsukiyo were heading out, and they wanted to walk home together. But as they get out, they see a huge crowd in front of the main gate. Turns out a huge crowd had gathered to see Asaka Shia, all of them claiming to be big fans of her. Asaka was taken aback by this, and from there, Atsumu was able to get a look at her and recognize her. Asaka also saw Atsumu, and she made a beeline through the crowd to come and see him. Atsumu knew this was her, and he wasn't looking forward to this. After all, this was Asaka Shia, the super idol from the top idol group Asterisk. Yet here she was, talking to Atsumu. Whispers were already going around about how Atsumu, a dude who had just joined school, was able to talk to the Ice Princess. He was also supposedly walking back home with her. Now, one of the top idols in the country is talking to him. It makes them wonder if he is some secret big shot in the entertainment industry. Atsumu was overwhelmed by the sudden attention coming his way. He wasn't really used to getting so much attention because he was a backstage worker. Just then, Tsukio asks Atsumu who Asuka was and if she was a friend. Atsumu is shocked by this, but Tsukio doesn't know new idols, so he introduces Asuka to her. He tells her how Asuka is the center for the popular idol band Asterisk, making her a super idol. Tsukio thinks that is really amazing that he then smiles and mentions how they were in the same school previously. Back then, it didn't have friends, but Asuka was kind enough to come and talk to him. This, though, wasn't appreciated by Tsukio, who responds with a blank face. Just then, Asuka grabs Atsumu's hand suddenly and tells him that she has something important to say with a blushing face. She looks Atsumu straight in the eye and tells him to go out with her. Asuka then wastes no time and takes Atsumu with her by dragging him. Everyone was overwhelmed by what transpired, but Tsukio was hit the worst as her voice became gloomy. She mentions how Atsumu promised to go home with her and grab a bite of strawberry cake together. She then thinks about how Atsumu described Asuka as a friend and a kind girl. Tsukio can't help but feel jealous because of this. Meanwhile, Asuka took Atsumu with her inside her car, leaving Atsumu confused and questioning what she was doing. Asuka doesn't answer and tells her driver to just hit the gas pedal. The driver does so, driving off from that place. Atsumu says that she should at least explain herself before driving off, because this was borderline kidnapping otherwise. Asuka says she will explain to him in a bit. But first, she wanted him to drop the honorifics. Atsumu thinks that'll be rude of him, but Asuka says she doesn't care. Atsumu then asks her why she is doing this, to which Asuka simply puts it that she's doing that for him. Atsumu asks if she is doing it for him, to which Asuka says that she is doing it for him because he doesn't have money. Atsumu asks her how she knows, to which Asuka says that she knows about his deal with her mother and how it doesn't include his living expenses. Atsumu feels happy knowing Asuka was doing all of this out of concern. This is when Asuka reveals that she came up with a solution for his problems. The solution being that he'll be working as a member of her support staff. Atsumu is shocked by this, and he tells Asuka that he isn't qualified enough for that position. Asuka finds his excuse funny because Atsumu did single-handedly manage all 7 of the Amagasaki sisters by himself. Atsumu remembers that he did do it, but doesn't think he was particularly good at it. This is when Asuka tells him that the biggest reason why she wants him by her side is because she trusts him and his talents. Atsumu hears this and flusters. He is happy to be praised like that, but he doesn't know if he wants to do this. He didn't want to quit the entertainment industry after all. Asuka then informs him how she is willing to pay him right away. She assures to pay him in cash right then and there. Atsumu was now confused, because doing this will most certainly solve his biggest problem. Just then, Asuka gets closer to Atsumu, and with a vulnerable face, pleads with him to work for her. Atsumu felt her cuteness was too much and should be illegal, but he had no choice but to give I.so. He gladly accepts the role, beginning his work life as a support staff for Asuka Ashiya.